solving one-step equations, and we'll be looking at one-step equations with squares and square roots. But we'll start just by remembering about one-step equations. So this is a one-step equation. All of these are x plus 2 equals 6. A really good way of thinking about a one-step equation is that this is illustrating a situation where someone thought of a number and didn't tell you. They added 2 and they got 6. So they're thinking of a number that you don't know, and we'll call that x. Add 2 to that number, and the result is 6. To work out, now you can see the answer here. It's 4, because we know that 4 plus 2 is 6. But we need to be able to solve equations when that answer is not obvious because it's harder numbers. So we need to practice a way of doing this more mathematically than just saying, I know it, it's 4. To reverse what they did to get back to their original number, and here's our proper working. They had a number, they added 2, and they got 6. To get back to just their number, I've got to take what they got and reverse what they did. I've got to take away 2, and I discover that x is 4. So this is actually proper working. This is the way of thinking it through. Here's an equation, x minus 3 equals 9. They thought of a number, subtracted 3, and got 9. It's an equal sign. So to get back to their number, from their result, I've got to reverse what they did, which was adding 3. I'll discover that x is 12. We can always check these by substituting back in. When x is 4, 4 plus 2 is 6. Yep, we got it right. 12 take away 3 is 9. Yes, we got it right. 2y equals 10. This means 2 times y. So they thought of a number, and we're calling it y. They multiplied by 2, and they got 10. So to reverse that, their original number, y, was 10, and we've got to divide that by 2 to get back to their original number, of 5. And we double check, 2 times 5 is 10. Yes, we're right. Here's one. B, our number that we thought of, divided by 3 is 7. So to get back to our original number, we've got to reverse what we did. 7 times 3, so B is 21. Quick check, 21 divided by 3 is 7. We're right. So we also have to be able to do one-step equations with squares. Now we'd better remember what a square is first. Here I've got 3 squared. Now anything squared means that base number there multiplied by itself. So 3 squared means 3 times 3, which is of course 9. We also see the thing called a square root. And the square root is like the opposite of squared. And I'll put an example here. If I said the square root of 9, that would be 3, because it's saying what number would I square to get 9? This is saying what number would I square to get 25? So obviously that's 5. So the square root and the squared are opposites in the same way that times and divide are opposite and plus and minus are opposite. So we might write that down. Plus is opposite to minus. And if I add something and then subtract it, that cancels out. So I've got $2, I add $3, I take away $3, I've still got $2. The add 3 and minus 3 cancelled out. Times is opposite to divide. And we'll put a little up. Squared is opposite to square root. So you can use a square root to get rid of a squared to cancel out when there's been a squared. And of course we can square a letter as well. X squared is just x times x. So we can have equations with squares in them. X squared is 16. But when we solve an equation, we need to find out what x is. So what happened here, if we do our equation in the same way, I thought of a number, I squared it, and I got 16. To get back to my original number, I've got to do the reverse of squaring, which is square root. X is the square root of 16. And you could do this on your calculator if you wanted with the square root button. Or you could do this by knowing what the square root of 16 is. Now I do have a calculator here, so that's lucky. Here's your square root button above your squared button. So shift or second and square root of 16 equals 4. And of course that's correct because 4 times 4 is 16. Here I've got b squared is 4. I thought of a number called b. I squared it and I got 4. So to get just b, I've got to do the reverse of squaring, which is square root. And of course that's asking what number was squared to give me 4. That would be 2. So to get rid of a squared in an equation, we do the opposite, which is a square root.